Hello, and welcome to Insurrection with Brenton Lengel, special edition. I'm your host, Brenton Lengel. I am a playwright, a Ringo-nominated comic author, and an anarchist, and I am also a Shodan in Kyokushin karate, which, for those of you who don't know, is a uniquely brutal form of full-contact karate where we train to fight bare knuckle. We've already got B in the hive in our chat. Hello, Brento-san. Class fallen. Quiet.
there is no mercy on this podcast.
Now, I'm excited to do this. I'm actually wearing my shirt from Dageki in Montreal. This is an international full contact tournament I was at where I did score a knockout. And as you can see, by the way, the karate, this is taken from an actual full contact match. You'll note, see where the legs are? That's going to come up because a lot of what you see on screen about karate is not what karate is about.
Well, it's not how fighting works.
No, not at all. And so, Bobby, this is Bobby B. Bobby, do you want to introduce yourself to the audience?
Hey, bros, broettes, bro fluids. I am Bobby B of the Mustache Mafia podcast, not putting up enough content, but hopefully trying to fix it in the new year. You can learn about me on my show. You can learn about me from listening to other things that I've been on with Brenton. Is my audio good?
Your audio is good. I had to lean in because the camera blurred. It was focused on my shirt and not me.
Outstanding, just to be sure. And I come at this from a different perspective because unlike Brenton, I did a real combat sport. No, I'm just messing with you. I'm messing with you. No,
I thought you were going to say you did real combat because you did. But...
Well, yeah, I'm also a war veteran. But no, I was an amateur boxer, Golden Gloves. I had 82 amateur fights, 68 wins, 14 losses, 50 stoppages, I think it was.
Nice.
But I can get into why that 50 isn't that impressive as a number. But I love watching stuff about fighting. There's stuff I loved about this show. There's stuff I hated about this show. I think this is actually a pretty good show overall, and we're going to get into why.
Yeah, absolutely. And in case you guys are wondering who I am to be talking about Cobra Kai, because I'm coming at this from three perspectives here. As I said, I am a martial artist, but I am also the author of Snow White Zombie Apocalypse, the comic series, Ringo-nominated comic series. And Swaza has a ton of martial arts in it because a lot of it is an expression of all the weird stuff I did growing up. And one of the things was we would create Juju Ende, which was in the previous martial arts before I studied Kyokushin. I learned Japanese, a fusion of Goju-Ryu karate and taekwondo from an ex-professional kickboxer, like in high school. So when I was first really getting into martial arts, like I was the age of the kids in Cobra Kai.
Oh, so it's perfect for you.
It really is. And there's so much about Cobra Kai that like strikes just the right chord with me. Because like, yeah, it is, there's something very real about the way these kids respond to martial arts. It goes off the rails, but it really reminded me, like, freaking Hawk reminds me of a guy like I know that I've been friends with for years when he was 17. But yeah, anyway, the other qualifications though, I am, as I mentioned, I'm a martial artist. I am a comic writer, and I am a political radical. Did a lot with Occupy Wall Street. I have fought / actually been beaten up by cops. I'm not going to fight back. I'm not an idiot. So I'm going to be examining Cobra Kai with Bobby here on three different levels. As a professional writer, as a martial artist, and I'm going to be examining the politics. So that's what you're in for. Now, Bobby, why don't you explain a little bit about your background? I think we already talked about your boxing experience, and you know the people who know the channel know you. You're a combat war vet, but why don't you explain?
This did strike the same chord with me because I was about the same age that these kids would be when I was getting into martial arts. I grew up on the Karate Kid, and if you don't know this already, Cobra Kai is a sequel to the Karate Kid. Some 30 odd years later. It's funny for me because I went a little bit of a different direction than Brenton did, because you went down the traditional martial arts pipeline. I started doing like community center karate as a little kid. And then when I was about 12, my dad really liked Mike Tyson. And that was about when Mike Tyson got out of jail, came back and did his fights. I went into a boxing gym. And my perspective completely changed, which is why I think this conversation is going to be interesting, because I went from very kata heavy traditional martial arts, very watered down Americanized karate, to getting punched in the face, doing like getting in actual fights. And that experience, that sounds really bad when I just describe it as getting hit in the face for fun, but that experience really helped put me on like a better direction in life than I would have been otherwise. It gave me a lot of insight about myself. It helped me meet other people. I see a lot of myself in Hawk, the character that we're going to get into in this.
Hawk is I've got such a soft spot for Hawk.
I really do. You can't, except in like season 3, which we'll get into. Like, he's a bit of an idiot in season 3.
He's kind of an idiot in all of the seasons.
Yeah,
and there's So the thing is, I do want to let people know there are spoilers. It's going to be spoilers for Cobra Kai seasons 1 to 3. And I may bring up some other fiction. And before I let loose a major spoiler, I will say spoiler, so there will be a chance to click off the video. Bobby, you're going to try to do that too. But just, be warned. We are going to have to talk about the show. So if you haven't seen it yet, you can go watch it, come back. This video will still be here. So first off, what I would say is, like, what you're talking about actually kind of reminds me of one of the reasons I got involved in martial arts. And that was, I had studied a more sport martial art beforehand, just being Olympic style wrestling. And I was in high school. I think it was my second year. And I got attacked from behind by a guy. There'd been a fight that had been instigated by a third party, because the third party's girlfriend had a crush on me that I was not aware of. And so he put his friend up to starting a fight with me. His friend was a nutcase. And I had never met this kid before in my life. He knocked the books out of my hand. I swore at him. He got super mad and followed me to the chemistry room for my chemistry course. And I'm sitting there, in high school, I'm watching it, and I'm thinking, like, okay, he's sitting in the hallway, just blowing off steam, whatever. And I unfortunately turned my back. And I had brought up like a packet of Nerds to eat it. And as I'm doing this, kid freaking tackles me. And I remember thinking to myself, he's trying to wrestle with me. I will use Olympic style wrestling to deal with this. And it did not work well. And the thing was we kind of stumbled around the room for a little bit, and I fell and knocked my head on a projector. And then eventually kind of rolled around, and I was choking him, and he was punching at me. He wasn't really doing much. He didn't know what he was doing, but he was pulled off me. And that kind of led me to one of the major reasons why I chose to start taking the martial arts class that my public high school was offering, which wound up being one of the best, probably the single best class and most important piece of my public school education.
Learning how to fight. I'm surprised it wasn't small arms, judging by our public school system these days.
No. So I kind of feel like with you, I've had a similar experience where you have a type of training you think is going to protect you, and then it really doesn't. Oh
no, like looking back at it, it was hilarious because one of the things that they taught us in like the karate course was that for self-defense, if somebody was like starting a fight with you, you would pretend like you were thinking and put your hand under your chin like you were thinking. And then from that position, you would like do a back fist and surprise them.
Oh!
And then I was like, no, like you did it like much more practically. Like they wanted you to turn your whole torso and like backhand the dude from that position. And then like, like the first 3 or 4 boxing classes I'm in, or the first 3 or 4 training sessions, because boxing works a little different than martial arts does. I was laughing because I was like, "There's no way that you would ever land that." I'll tell you a story now because it's funny, but it'll have bearing on the show as we talk about it. I was doing a little bit of kickboxing because if you only do one style, you only know one thing, and you got to know a lot of other things. You find a lot of funny people who come from the traditional side of the house to the combat side of the house. And I'm sparring in the ring one day, and this kid comes in and he says, "I'm Dan. I have a traditional martial arts background." And the trainer goes like, "Okay, whatever." He warms up on the bag for a little while as I'm, in the ring sparring. And the kid says, "I want to spar."
Oh no.
And it's like, well, Bob's in the ring. I'm like, I don't want to hurt this poor little guy. But he pops in the ring. I ring circle with him for a second, and I hit him with a jab. And we were wearing MMA gloves, so our fingers are free. This kid does a somersault, comes up, and he blows at his hand like Sonya in Mortal Kombat. And then he acts like he won. And everyone in the gym is giving the same look that you're giving your screen right now. And he's like, "That was my ninja dust. I just killed you." And that was Dan the Ninja Man for the rest of forever.
Oh my god.
And that's a thing that happened. So like the absurd things that you see in Cobra Kai are things that really happen in the combat sport world. It's really funny.
There's a bunch of like there's also a guy he declared himself like the some sort of big like champion that claims like he's got like I can't think of the guy's name. He's like a YouTube troll.
Charlie Zelnoff, who got beat up. He got beat up by Deontay Wilder like really badly.
Yeah, he got beat up by a lot of people. But he just goes into gyms and like challenges people to a sparring match and then tries to really fight them. And sometimes like he'll get lucky and surprise somebody who's not really all that skilled and like post it to his YouTube. But then also he just will get utterly destroyed. I think like freaking like Floyd Mayweather Sr. or something.
Floyd Mayweather Sr. beat him up. A 14-year-old Golden Gloves kid beat the living crap out of him. Deontay Wilder, who was one of the heavyweight champions of the world, like gave him a savage beating.
Yeah.
which is something that like it's hilarious to watch, but at the same time you kind of almost feel a little unsafe for the poor guy because he's getting destroyed.
Absolutely. So point is that the craziness around the martial arts, and also by the way, anybody who's wondering like with these like rival karate schools, that's a real thing both in Asia. Like if you go to China, you will go to there's an area that is known for kung fu and has a bunch of different kung fu schools, and they all fight each other. Like
have you heard of
kind of like the movies.
Have you heard of the dojo wars?
That was exactly what I was about to get to. And in Chicago, there were the dojo wars, where it was it was a fight between a bunch of different martial artists, including this nut job named Count Dante, who is, if you look up a picture of him, he is the inspiration for Hercule / Mr. Satan in Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah,
like point for point, the like white afro, the handlebar mustache. This guy, he actually claimed to be a like Spanish royalty or a count. So Spanish nobility. He was obviously Spanish Civil War. I'm working on a comic book right now about Buenaventura Durruti.
He was Irish.
Everyone was Irish, but Count Dante was Irish.
Yeah, Count Dante was Irish.
There's a theme going on here with Irish people wanting to become, Hispanic. Well, badass Hispanics, because like we had that. What was it? Claiming Che Guevara as Irish on the last on our Homage to Catalonia podcast. So Count Dante is a guy. He would have been a fascist. He would have been fighting for Franco, and he took out ads in the backs of comic books, where he claimed he had like the 5-fingered death punch or the dim mock.
It's better than that, man. It's the 14-hit combination called the Kata Dante that'll like rip your face off and like break all your ribs and kill you. Like look it up after you're done listening to us, guys. Look up the Kata Dante. You're gonna find the demonstration by another fake martial arts guy named Ashita Kim, who is also hilarious, but it is not a practical bit of fighting.
Absolutely. So the insanity surrounding Cobra Kai, that is actually 100% believable.
Oh, completely.
Now, one of the things that I did want to get into, though, was the martial arts itself. Now, what's your opinion watching? And I'm not talking about the kata, because the katas they do are actually real. Yeah. But the actual, I guess I would say both the fight sequences and the class.
Well, okay, so like the fight sequences as the show goes on get progressively more crazy.
Yeah,
and a lot of movies and television shows about fighting sports do this. Rocky is a really bad offender, so I'm not only criticizing the karate side of the house about this, where like people take punishment where they would feel it for like 6 or 8 months. Like if you take if somebody actually manages to hit you with a spinning kick, like a spinning heel kick, like one, you need to practice more because they never should have hit you with that.
No, that depends. And are you talking about like basically like a spinning thrust kick, or are you talking about a spinning heel kick? Because they're different.
Okay, excuse me. Like a big looping spinning kick that they throw a lot. You know what I mean? Like they jump and their legs are flying through the air, and you should just take 2 side steps. But if somebody actually hits you with that, you're not getting up. Like, no, is the point that I'm making. And so like that I can excuse because that's the nature of the medium that we're talking about. I have a problem kind of from my martial arts background, I guess, with the way that they teach the karate. Philosophically, I think Johnny's actually right about fighting, and then, and Danny's right about living. But we'll get into that a little more. But like, I was always taught to fight in the way that I'm trying to punch 3 inches behind the guy.
Yes,
I'm out to like kill you, or you're gonna kill me, and we're fighting for the heavyweight championship of this minute. And that's kind of the Cobra Kai philosophy, and I think they get that right, where Danny gets like the living as a fighter philosophy right. I think that the way that they're teaching the kids and the flaw with traditional martial arts in general that you might disagree with me with is that they teach you the specific katas, but they don't really teach you when to throw it. So like in boxing, you're going to learn most of your punches pretty quickly. But the art of boxing, the sweet science of boxing, is the movement and knowing when and where to apply those hits. And I don't think that the kata system that they have in those dojos is going to teach those kids that accurately.
Well, kata definitely doesn't.
It doesn't in real life. But
I don't think that's really the purpose of kata, though.
Yeah. Well, I have a different. I just have a different experience than you, so I might be correct about karate.
Well, no, I mean, so karate also is one of those styles. So like when you're talking about like karate or taekwondo, now it's even being expanded to Brazilian jiu-jitsu to a certain extent. Yeah. When you take these styles and you mass produce them, you get what's called a MIC dojo.
Yes.
And, there are these places that get set up and they... you go in, you pay your money, you rank up, but you might as well be learning like you might as well be taking a yoga class. Yeah. Like they're especially if it's like Aikido or, and I'm not saying that there's nothing you can learn from these styles, but like a soft style like Aikido, something Tai Chi is not applicable in combat, like at all. And a lot of kung fu. Unfortunately, I love kung fu. I like the way it looks, and it looks like the people who did the fight are like the fight choreographers seem to be more trained in kung fu, wushu, that kind of thing. But be in the hive, and I love that your father owned a dojo. That's something I may do, honestly. Like if I get a couple more ranks. Decide have the money set aside. I would love to one day open my own martial arts dojo, but my gi will be green, like a dark forest green. I think that'll look awesome with a freaking black belt.
Oh, you're trying to color coordinate.
Oh yeah, it's about branding, man.
That's the great thing about boxing is when you get older and you become a trainer, all you need is like a nice little jacket and a little flat hat. And you need to develop like an old Irish accent. Yeah, I had and one. And then you need
to have a heart attack when you're boxing.
Yeah, exactly. One of my trainers used to tell us to hit people, but he didn't want us to. He didn't tell us where to hit them. He would tell us to hit them in different household objects, and it was hilarious. like I remember he's like, hit him in the mezuzah, kid, and I didn't know what a mezuzah was. I had to go and Google it, and I was like, God. That's like a thing that Jewish people hang up. It's like, hit him in the credenza, get him in the credenza.
So Yeah, I was actually taught. So my high school, and really this reminded me so much of my high school class because like me and my friends, we were, 16, 17, 18 years old. We got so into martial arts. Our teacher, Ronald L. Bertram, was an ex-professional kickboxer, was an awesome guy. He was also the shop teacher. And he would have us, we'd work out in the gym, and we'd get so excited about this that we would like go around. There up into like my first year of college, I proceeded to, like the doors you can push to open. I would just open them with my fist.
Yeah.
It's like I got drunk in the quad freshman year and did one of my katas, Basai Sho, in the rain and slipped and fell because it was in the rain and I hit a puddle.
At least you did something.
But yeah, so like you really do get in, like you get into it, and there is sometimes almost like a cult-like mentality surrounding your sensei, and you can get very competitive with other dojos. Like you even see it online. There's a number of videos you can see if you Google like Kyokushin karate, and you'll see like freaking wushu practitioners talking smack about Kyokushin. And they'll be like, "Oh, you can't deal with our chain punches." And I'm like, the chain punches are a gimmick. They have always been a gimmick. You can't get power that way.
I saw Ip Man, though, and the guy beat up the guy in Ip Man with him.
Oh, yeah. And those were all supposed to be Kyokushin Kai because they had the symbols down the side of the gi, and they said os. Like if there's someone who's like uses os about as much as the Smurfs use Smurf, that's a Kyokushin Kai usually, or a derivative style. But in fact, I actually think that Cobra Kai, like the name, I don't have confirmation on this, but I'm pretty sure that Cobra Kai was named after Kyokushin, was patterned after that because Cobra Kai takes after the word Kyokushin Kai, which means Kyokushin practitioner. And the founder of Kyokushin karate, Masoyama, was a Korean national who was adopted into a Japanese karate family. And he is pretty much like the platonic ideal of like the badass, somewhat morally compromised karate master. Like if you watch Hunter x Hunter, I'm pretty sure that Netero is based on Masoyama. To the point that where he, Masoyama, his friends all became kamikazes in World War II and died. And he got all pissed off, didn't join the military, but wound up beating up American GIs during the occupation until he became a wanted man, at which point he disappeared into the mountains, shaved off one eyebrow, did nothing but karate like sun up to sunset, and then came back and fist fought bulls.
That's a story, man.
Yes.
I guess the best thing we got in boxing is Roberto Duran knocked out a mule with one punch as a boy. That's how you knew he was going to be a boxer. Yeah.
And that's, I didn't, does it work the same with a mule? Because one of the things we were taught early on was that the jaw is like the on off button of the body. So like if you can hit the jaw and get it to move in the right way, bam, knocked out. That's
definitely true, but I have never hit a mule, so I can't. I only people.
Yeah, but yeah, so like Masoyama, I really think that like the karate, the strike hard, strike fast, no mercy, that is very much Kyokushin philosophy, especially because they focus very strongly on like making sure that you are tough when you fight. Because you have to be tough to do multiple, bare knuckle bouts, one after another. Like, and I remember even like watching some of the belt promotions in my dojo. There was a guy, Dan, great guy, very good fighter, a lot of energy. And I watched him fighting one of my senseis, who is one of the nicest guys I know. And he is just getting beat. He's beating the tar out of him. And I'm just like looking at this and I'm like, somebody should really stop this. But, I trusted my sensei, I trusted Shihan, and I trusted that they weren't going to kill him. And I got to tell you, when he fought through that and, got his ass beat for, I don't know, 10 minutes or something, like, he could barely stand. I'm pretty sure he puked immediately after. I think he took a solar plexus shot and possibly a shot to the nuts. But he got to the end of it. And like that experience that they really will put you in a pressure cooker during your belt promotions, especially the higher end ones. And when you come out of it, because of the brutality of it that you're forced to endure, it gives you more of a perspective on how to train. And so I think whoever was writing the original Karate Kid knew a little bit about Kyokushin.
I think they did because they had to train Pat Morita, who's actually a Korean who doesn't know any martial arts, to be Mr. Miyagi, which is kind of the funny part about Cobra Kai is that Karate Kids 1, 2, and 3 didn't really know that they were funny movies. They were done like completely seriously to kind of do like the martial arts exploitation that was coming out of the 80s, but with this kind of rebirth of it that we have with Cobra Kai, they know that those movies are funny. They know that we've spent like 30 years thinking about these movies, and they reference a lot of the things that we were thinking about. Like, there's a whole video on YouTube that was a couple years before Cobra Kai came out, explaining how Danny the Karate Kid is actually the bully of the thing, and they reference that constantly throughout this show.
Well, I think that's what inspired the show to begin with. Was that video? Yeah. I think whoever wrote it and resurrected it was thinking a lot about that and thinking about things from the perspective of the Cobra Kai. Because Danny's a total dick.
Because and even now, like, we start 30 years after the original Karate Kid movie, and the first shot of the show is Johnny Lawrence getting front snap kicked in the face, which I was really super stoked when I was like 8 years old in karate, and they taught us the front snap kick. I was like, I know the crane kick. That is the most useless. There's a use for it. You can land it conceivably. It is not likely that you're going to.
So like so a front snap, you're never going to land it like the crane kick.
No.
Like there was one time I caught occasionally, and I'm not going to recommend you do this, but occasionally, especially when I was younger, I would like play like Dead or Alive and copy moves from Dead or Alive and try them out in sparring. And usually it didn't work. But there was
imagine that.
Like double front flying knee smash that the Muay Thai fighter did. Yeah. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to try that because it works really well in the game. It looks badass. So I actually did that in a sparring match, and it led to one of my proudest moments, which was I jumped through the air, did the double front flying knee smash. I did the same kind of kiai that the dude does in the game. And the guy that I'm fighting took a step back, which is what you would do if somebody actually did that. At which point, I extended the front knee and hit him in the chin with a flying front snap kick. Like, I didn't hurt him. I just tapped him.
You got it.
But it was beautiful. I came down. I was grinning ear to ear.
It was funny because my very first Silver Gloves fight. Well, actually, I'll tell you my first. It'll be more applicable to the part of the show we're discussing. My first experience in a boxing gym. This happens to everybody when you go into a boxing gym. Is you go in and you think you're going to learn how to box immediately. No, they make you do ring circles for like 2 weeks. So ring circles are exactly what you think it is. You're learning to move around the ring, moving from your hips, learning how to move around a boxing ring. And finally, after about like 2 or 3 weeks of doing like 2 practices per week, I go up to the trainer and I go like, hey, I came here to learn how to fight. Can you teach me how to learn how to fight? Which is something that happens in Karate Kid. But instead of teaching me that, he had been showing me wax on, wax off the whole time. He put me in with like a kid who was like 15 and had like 12 fights under his belt. Okay. Beat the living tar out of me. And apparently he did that to every kid who came in there. And if you came back, that was the test for him to actually start training you how to box.
Makes sense.
Yeah. It also ruined professional wrestling for me, which I thought was real up to that point. Because the minute that kid hit me in the face with a hook, I realized if you hit somebody in the head that hard, they would die.
Oh, yeah. Well, like, so, and what I kind of want to get into with regard to the martial arts. So first off, the martial arts, I like the fight scenes. I think they're well done.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to do bad fight combat. It will ruin stuff for me.
Oh, completely.
One of the reasons why Snow White Zombie Apocalypse did so well as a play in New York was we didn't have professional combat choreographers choreographing it. It was me and my roommate. And like we even got a professional combat choreographer for the full length play to do it because I was worried about liability, and then I realized that a stage combat certification has no legal standing whatsoever. And so like I had to go in and correct and fix a lot of the stuff that the combat choreographer had done because it just wasn't working. And so like, but the introduction of the martial arts combat that we had learned, the Jujuende that we'd done in high school, to the New York theater scene, like people were just like, whoa, what the hell is this? Like, we immediately got a lot of attention. So like, I feel like they do the fight scenes right, but what they show in those fight scenes is much closer to wushu than to karate.
Yeah.
Karate is very much as a style, like especially if you're doing something like Kyokushin, it is very much about pulling power from the ground. It comes from your stance, and you do it right, you feel like a train. Like, so it's not flashy, and it is more about breaking down your opponent slowly to the point where you can deliver a finishing blow. As opposed to a lot of high, fast, flashy kicks. Because like the big thing I've learned in fighting is it's less a battle against against the opponent and more a battle against your own exhaustion.
Yeah, we talked a lot about Clausewitz on the other thing that we're doing,
Mm-hmm.
but it actually applies to fighting too. Is well, as you expend strength, you lose it in a fight. So you're never going to come out of a fight stronger than when you went in, unless you're actually a Saiyan from Dragon Ball, which is not a thing. But yeah, that's definitely a thing in boxing too, because you are breaking down the opponent. You only have so many punches in you when you come into the round, and if you throw 70 punches in a round, you're probably not going to be able to do it in the next one.
Yeah,
and you want to break the guy's body before you go for the head. Rocky Marciano, who you guys might not know in the audience, is one of the greatest boxers in history. I think he's 49-0, undefeated heavyweight champion, retired in the mid-50s. He used to hit people in the arms on purpose, which is something that kind of annoyed me about the fight choreography and annoys me about fight choreography in general, is that like blocking isn't a thing like it is in a lot of movies. Like if you're like a 149-pound dude and you try to block a punch from like me, like a 6'2", like 202 many pounds person, it's going to break your arm. And Rocky Marciano used to purposely hit people in the arms for multiple rounds so they wouldn't be able to pick their hands up at the end. So he would hit them in the face.
And then you hit him in the face and you get that chin and you knock him out. Yeah. Like with, as I said, like with my shirt, with Degeki, you'll notice this is a low kick that's being thrown and it's being blocked by the other leg. And you actually do see, I think in like the third season, you do see when he is dreaming, I think. Yeah. You see, which I think is probably one of the closer things to an actual karate match that Dreamy had when he was spoiler in the coma.
Yeah.
But like with Kyokushin, again, you'll square off, and other karate practitioners actually who don't do the full contact have gotten annoyed with me for this since we've sparred afterwards. But you square off, and people don't block their legs. So just like Rocky's punching the guy's arm, Kyokushin teaches you basically go in and it's punch, punch, low kick, punch, punch, low kick, low kick, low kick. And you usually target one leg and you just keep hitting it. And the more you hit it, the weaker it's going to get. And people don't block. Even when they know what's going on, a lot of the time they don't block because it's so low, it doesn't register as an attack. And like, it doesn't hurt at first unless you get hit really, really hard. So like, as things continue, like eventually your legs will buckle and you'll go down. So as you know, if you're doing it right, you're chopping somebody down like a tree.
Yeah. Or if you want to see an example of that from the boxing side, watch Ali Frazier 3 and you'll see Joe Frazier go to work on Muhammad Ali's body throughout the whole fight, to the point where you can see Ali stop moving towards like the middle and the later rounds. And what he did was he hit him in the body so much that he actually caused blood clots in the guy's torso. And
and body shots are tough because again, body shots tire you out. They don't hurt.
And the liver is the worst place in the body to get hit.
Yeah, the liver is really that's like one of the reasons why I'm glad I don't fight southpaw.
yeah, it's dangerous. You know, I became a two-handed boxer because I also fence, and I learned how to lead with my right hand.
nerd.
Yeah.
But,
Well, yeah, nerd, I can stab you or I can punch you. You can pick. But, but yeah. But
I don't blame you. I took a little bit of fencing in college.
yeah.
I, I wish they'd had like HEMA in college. I wanted like a freaking broadsword.
Oh, you didn't want a like nice little gentlemanly rapier. You wanted a less civilized weapon for a more uncivilized age.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, look at me.
Yeah, fair enough. But this show though, I really do like how it starts 30 years later, but Johnny still remembers all of his like karate training and
Yeah.
all of the stuff that he learned through karate, because it does kind of stick with you even
Yeah,
as you get older and you're not as active. But it also goes to show you that Johnny just can't let shit go.
no, not at all. which is a characteristic that followed from his character, like in the movies. Like,
Absolutely. And he's so like defined by what happened in freshman year of high school, which is like that generation. That's like just before you and me. Like they're always obsessing about high school. Even the generation prior to that, he still got his car from high school. Like, and he's still just living in that moment, and he can't get past it. But
I wonder so there is this real obsession with high school, and I don't see it as much out of millennials. And what do you think that is? You've read all of the stuff that Jordan Peterson is afraid of. So
yeah, one, it's idealized in culture a lot. I mean, like how many shows about like pretty high school kids with issues are there on major network television? It's also kind of like the last portion of your life where you're not actually subjected to the brutal neoliberal capitalism we live in now. You're kind of a little more carefree, and you're discovering the world. Like your perspective at like 16 or 17 is gonna be like Johnny's. Like you get in a fight, that's the fight. Like that's gonna define your life with this little dick from New York who's trying to take your girlfriend. You get your girlfriend at 16 or 17, and you've never experienced attraction before, so you mistake that initial like puppy love attraction for like world defining love that nobody's ever experienced before. So when you think back to as you become older, inevitably you can become a little more jaded. I probably remember my earliest Golden Gloves and Silver Gloves fights a little better because they were my first ones. I remember my first loss more than my 12th loss, but and then those memories stick with you a little bit more. And I think that's what does it to people. And also, like, we live very boring lives now. and
it's one of the worst aspects of capitalism, to tell you the truth.
It kind of is. And, like, you can see that with Johnny's character, because ever since he loses that fight, he's like a handyman. He's working odd jobs. He's ironically living in Daniel LaRusso's old crappy apartment building.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Rocky IV, and where Rocky goes to train to be a piece of farm equipment on Drago's farm or whatever. But so he's stuck, and that whole generation is kind of stuck. And I think that was a really good little piece of writing that they did. Well, Danny is also kind of stuck, even though he's moved on. He's got a family. He's got the car dealership, which Danny LaRusso, the car salesman, he looks like a car salesman. So that was actually another
I believe it. Yeah. By the way, hang on real quick.
Yeah.
I think bullies especially get mentally stuck in their school because that was their glory days. It usually goes downhill from there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you're 100% right on that. And, so this kind of so a lot of this is ringing kind of true as far as the experience of being in high school, the experience of doing martial arts. It's heightened, obviously. Also, like from my traditional writer trained, this show is essentially, it's a farce, like literally
definitely.
A classical farce. It is a comedic show that relies on convenient entrances and exits. So if you put this on a stage, you would have people walking in and out of the room at inconvenient times, where they would then always be dealing with a lack of like the whole picture of information, and a lot of the problems would be solved with a simple conversation. But of course that never happens, because that's how farce works.
No, yeah. And one of the things that I've noticed about being like a trained fighter is that like you don't get into as many fights because you are willing to have the conversation, because you're secure enough with yourself to not get into too many fights. I got into like one fight in high school, because because I wore my golden gloves, so people knew. and the kid tried to do the hockey player thing to me, where he tried to pull my T-shirt over my head.
Oh God!
Which was a mistake because I started hitting him in the liver.
Yeah.
And what I didn't know is I had pushed him into the vice principal's adjoining wall.
Oh,
so he came out and he saw that like my shirt was over my head, but he didn't see any marks on the kid, so I kind of got away with it.
Go you!
If you're listening right now, Mr. Vince, I did it.
As far as having D. Snyder be popular in season 3,
brutal.
Ridiculous.
To be fair, that was a really small venue, and there were only like 30 people there, which might be realistic.
But I felt that the audience was what's the word? I felt like the audience way too young for liking D. Snyder. Also, what was the deal with him telling the ladies to sleep with? I mean, he didn't say sleep with him, but like to sleep with the 17-year-old boy that he believed was dying.
That's like the highest. He hasn't matured as like a man yet, right? So like Johnny's character. Is I think he's actually the most interesting character in the show. He's still kind of like 17 in his brain. So like when he's trying to do something nice for somebody, like the 17-year-old pubescent brain is like, I'll get him these like floozies from the D. Snyder show, and that's gonna be awesome. Or like, what's a badass name for my new karate dojo? Eagle Claw.
Eagle Fang. Eagle Fang made sense.
Oh, see, but that's his whole mentality, and like he hasn't matured as a fighter either because he's still using the same techniques from Kreese. He hasn't made him his own yet.
Yep. He definitely has not. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's the struggle of that character, to see him mature and if he can ever get into it. Whereas I think, and I'm still not 100% sure if the writers are aware of it, but Danny's he is like the most. He has zero. He's a huge narcissist and seems to have zero empathy. Like, and I don't mean that in that he's a cruel person. He's not. He just doesn't seem to have the ability to ever put himself in anyone's shoes but his own, or look at any perspective other than his own.
Well, like especially in season 1 and like the beginning of season 2, Danny's kind of become the bully, and it's kind of an interesting like little instance of like someone being abused becoming the abuser later in life.
Yeah, which sadly happens quite a bit.
Yeah, which he kind of did because, like, now he's the rich guy. He's trying to run the other karate out of town. He's trying to close this man's small business down. He immediately assumes that Miguel's like an awful kid, and
I can see how somebody would make those, especially a car dealership guy in a state of arrested development.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like I that definitely makes a lot of sense. And I think it speaks to us sort of as millennials in the sense that in a lot of ways, we are stuck in a state of, I guess, seemingly perpetual childhood in the sense we actually had to mentally grow up a lot faster than the previous generation, but as far as like the material things, the house, the car, the stable job, the saving for a pension, the kids, all of these things were taken away from us by the crash of 2008 and by failing neoliberalism. So I think that may be part of the reason why the audience, especially the audience in the age demographic that we are, really identifies with Johnny and, to a lesser extent, Danny, because we are stunted, not in the same way, but it's something that we can connect to.
Yeah. And it kind of goes to their characters too. I thought in an interesting way that Johnny's, we already mentioned it, but like, I kind of agree more with the Cobra Kai philosophy of martial arts: strike fast, strike hard, no mercy. And then that's a very practical fighting style that he's teaching those kids.
Yeah.
And that Danny resurrecting Miyagi-Do has this like weird Japanese garden in the back of his McMansion. And he's like trying to teach kids to fight on like the floats, like in his koi pond. And he's trying to teach the daughter like quarterstaff at one point. He teaches them a lot of very impractical stuff, and I thought that was very interesting.
Hang on, I'm going to tell you right off the bat. The bow is a practical weapon. Is the most practical martial arts weapon, except for possibly the hand bow.
Yeah,
and I'm going to tell you what. So, and in fact, that's my weapon, and it's also my Ron Bertram's weapon, because when he was all about hand-to-hand combat. And to get his black belt, he was the only white kid in an all-black karate school in Indiana. And to get his black belt, he had to learn a weapon. So he was just like, and he picked bow. The reason why is because that is most like if you just find a weapon somewhere when you need one, a bow is most likely what you're going to get. You're going to get a broomstick. You know, you're going to get just a stick in general. I will also say, by the way, one of the things that was very unrealistic about the way she fought with the bow is like the bow, the way they use it. You'll see people really like waving it around in like really big arcs in movies and stuff. The way I was trained to hold the bow was like we had it, and we would keep the bow pointed directly at the opponent so that they could only see the end of the bow. They couldn't see anything else. And the point of it was so that you didn't know where the attack was coming from. You didn't know how long the bow was. You didn't really have a good idea of your distance. And so like the attacks with it, there would be circular attacks and spear attacks, but like the way she was using it in season 3 is just not how you want to fight with a bow at all.
That's what happens with fencing all the time, is that like in the movies, or Star Wars is like the worst offender and the most notable one, where they're taking like these big looping shots at each other, and real like saber fighting or real classical fencing, you're trying to go around the opponent's guard and trick them to, you know, get your hit in. But yeah, I see your point there, but I just thought it was very interesting that Johnny is like literally taking his kids out to like the junkyard and having them be like chased by dogs, like Rocky II style. And
I don't know how you could possibly, you know, though that does remind me.
You would not get away with that.
Yeah. I wouldn't think. I don't know what they're supposed to learn by being chased by dogs.
Run like hell.
My Ron Bertram, my original master, he actually did. He told us about a time that when he was coming up, there was a condemned building that needed to be demolished, and they brought his master brought the karate school in to do like all the initial
I've heard of
on the walls and stuff, but they did it, you know, hands, legs.
I've heard of stuff like that happening. I think that was on Guinness Records or something. There was some
karate school that demolished a
building or something like that. Yeah, but
yeah, hang on for just a second. I want to show this stuff. Sticks are fun.
That's true.
We have Yikes from Anarcho Alex. I don't know what his Yikes is from.
I imagine that was trying to get like old women to sleep with a small 17-year-old boy.
Yeah, that was pretty creepy. And one style being primarily offensive, the other being primarily defensive, gives them a balance together. Can't wait for the next season. I agree.
Yeah, I think that's what they're going for. It's kind of like a Hegelian dialectic, where it's like thesis, antithesis, synthesis at the end.
Yeah, and I like that they introduced. We're going to talk a little bit about Kreese too, because I do think the end of this is going to be a synthesis between the two dojos, and that seems to be where they're going. But let's talk a little bit about Kreese. So I'll let you go first before I weigh in.
So one, as somebody who's sitting here enjoying a fine North Coast Brewing Company Old Rasputin Russian Imperial Stout and a giant Asylum 13 cigar, I would like to know why all war veterans who smoke cigars are always the bad guy in everything. Like, what the hell? You know, like, why can't a cigar smoker ever be the good guy? That's my question. But
you know what I'm going to say? Fidel Castro.
Yeah, you know,
Fidel Castro, Che Guevara. The cigars in American eyes, cigars are the are like extra villainy, because also we had that code for a while that was like you can't show smoking unless like the person is a bad person and the cigarette is an expression of their
evilness.
Yeah, their evilness. So for the longest time you couldn't do that, and then you add on like the cigar, associate that with a Cuban revolutionary, the worst, most frightening thing to, you know, a capitalist movie executive, and bam, there we go.
Well, anyway, as I take another puff, Kreese is an interesting character because in the first one, in the very first Karate Kid, we're introduced to him as this like guy. He has the tough karate school. He's a tough guy. At the end, it turns out that he's bullying his own kids, and that Mr. Miyagi, a small little man, can just like beat him like half to death and leave him in a puddle of tears, basically. And it doesn't get better in his appearance in Karate Kid 3, where he has to bring his friend in to try to help out fighting a small child. And
Creases. I'm sorry.
Kreese is delightfully pathetic, is what he is when you really think about it. But like we meet Kreese at the very end of season 2 when they've won. The Cobra Kai kids have won a karate tournament, and he walks in smoking his cigar, of course, wearing his trench coat. I also have a London Fog trench coat that I was wearing today. I'm a bad guy. Don't listen to me about things. But he walks back into Johnny's life. And I think it's interesting because he's the evil father figure kind of sitting on Johnny's shoulder throughout season 2, where he's like, go back to being a bully, go back to doing it my way. But he hasn't moved on either. And
no, he hasn't. And in fact, he talks about like how he sort of does the stolen valor thing, because he does about how he was out. Spoiler. Yeah. He talks about how he was out like training like Navy SEALs and like doing like covert operator missions all over the world. And it turns out he's just homeless.
Yeah, he's just homeless the whole time. He's a homeless veteran, which is sad. I think that the mistake that they made there was that in season 3, it turns out he was really in Vietnam.
Yeah.
I don't think they should have done that with his character. I think that was the biggest misstep they made with him. I think his whole story should have been BS.
Yeah.
I like what
a little closer to Count Dante.
Yeah. I like what they did though in season 3, where they showed like his backstory, where he wasn't like born evil. Like he didn't come out of the womb with the cigar chomping on it. But like cigars are also
you can read that.
Are also associated with capitalist fat cats, expensive, smoked in fancy drawing rooms, and corrupt politicians. You know, I hate to admit it, I do actually own a smoking jacket, and I do smoke on my enclosed back porch.
You are the bad guy.
I am.
I guess, yeah. Cigars, I guess, are just a little more sinister than cigarettes. I guess because they're big, and they kind of have almost a phallic significance, but also they kind of look like a piece of crap.
You know, there's one that I smoke called a 601 Bomba, and if you guys Google images that right now, there's a big tail hanging off the back of it. And the girl I was dating at the time told me that it looks like a tampon. I can't smoke it anymore because I can't unsee it. But
whereas these days I'm hitting the CBD oil. I can't wait till these things make their way into into film, like in not now.
Oh, American Gods, man.
Yeah, technology boy.
Yeah.
I need to get back. I really want to get back, because American Gods I've got a copy of American Gods right here. It's signed by Neil Gaiman. Yeah. It is my favorite. It's one of my favorite books of all time. The series, it's just like kicking me in the heart every time every episode. But there's also things about it that I really like, so I might want to go into it.
I just saw this in the comments. I don't actually have a skull on my cap. I have a skull T-shirt though.
Oh my Lord! By the way, with the whole thing with the skulls,
yeah.
So this is slight aside here, but kind of again, like, are we the baddies? Yeah. If you listen to Robert Evans' Behind the Bastards, he did one recently on Mussolini's March on Rome. And as it turns out, it's a great one to watch, because he was comparing that to the attempted coup, the KKK Karen coup that was attempted by Donald Trump and QAnon back on Friday, and like he was comparing Mussolini's march, but as it turned out, like a lot of the fascist soldiers that became black shirts and the anti-fascists in Italy, a lot of them came out of these elite military units.
The Arditi.
Yeah, the Arditi, who had fought in World War I, and kind of didn't know how to stop fighting. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, and they actually had like the skull symbols, and that then later on was adopted by the Third Reich and the SS officers.
And now we have the Punisher skull guys.
Because no matter how far you go with a fascist, eventually you find they have a skull fetish.
They do. It's weird. It's a weird coincidence.
I think it's symbolic in the sense that it symbolizes inevitable death, and I think that's what fascists are most afraid of. They're afraid of death and insignificance. Yeah. But also, I think that it symbolizes, like, bones are fixed. Bones don't grow. Bones don't change. Bones don't have choice. So obviously they're just all about it, and that's why they pull out their caliper.
And what do the Cobra Kai kids wear for Halloween?
Skeleton costumes. It's coming, and yeah, I mean, I think Kreese would definitely be a fascist.
Yeah, I think if he was intelligent enough to develop a political ideology, he would.
Yeah. Well, so here's my thing with Kreese, though. This is what I actually think about, because he's incredibly manipulative. He gets away with stuff he really shouldn't get away with.
Literally everything, but yeah,
they're very lazy with how they write him. But like, I'm okay with that because I'm just going with the show. Suspension of disbelief.
Yeah.
But Kreese is a cult leader.
Yes.
Like that is definitely what he is. That's his main goal. Seems to be to gain power for himself by manipulating children.
Because they're the only ones he can manipulate. Because like a fully developed adult won't fall for his BS. Like Johnny briefly falls for his like I was training Navy SEALs BS.
Yeah.
Like Danny is intimidated by him when he's like a child, but like literally none of the other developed adults take him seriously in the rest of the show.
But like, yeah, he's like a Keith Raniere guy. If Keith Raniere and like combined him with Count Dante, like that's Kreese. And I love how in season 3, like when he gets up and to try and manipulate the school board or the I guess it was the city council, he's leaning on his experience as a soldier.
Yeah, and like the absurd lengths that they go to, and I think it'd be really funny if it turned out like in season 4 that his stories about being a soldier are like just like in his head, because like spoiler alert, like you get flashbacks to him in Vietnam where his unit's captured by Viet Cong.
But by the heroic Viet Cong, working to force the imperialists out of their country. I couldn't help but think about like PJ and Luna Oi when we were watching that, because I was just like, oh wow, we invaded that country, and like, and now we're sitting there being like, these guys are the horrible sadistic ones.
Yeah, and the Viet Cong take these guys prisoner, these Green Berets somehow prisoner, and they construct, and it still blows my mind after like a week having seen this, they construct a platform above a pit of like deadly venomous cobras for them to fight to the death over. And I'm like, the degree to which that didn't happen can't be understated.
Of all the things that didn't happen, this
didn't happen the most. And I was like, and I think it'd be really funny if it turned out that was all in Kreese's head. But we do actually learn that he learned karate in the military from a sadistic officer
who apparently studied Tang Sudo, which I'm not familiar with.
I'm not either, but it sounds like something that somebody gets beat up when they try it in an actual fight.
It does sound like that. It's one of those martial arts names that's like really, yeah. I don't know though. Tang Sudo may be badass. Probably
it's sus.
It's sus. Voted out. I was really thinking it was going to be punji sticks, because they did that. The Viet Cong did build pit traps, and they coated the sticks in human excrement.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure like they saw Deer Hunter and thought like, how can I make this be more Deer Hunter?
It's a good point. I hadn't thought of that. You know, so with regard to the pit, I don't know where they found all those snakes to pour down there. Like, I like that symbolism there, and that's why he got. I don't know why he decided like, oh, I'm gonna base my dojo and style on a bunch of snakes because I killed this guy in the snake pit. What was funny was I expected, like, I knew instantly they were coding that officer as a bad guy, like just from the way he talked and stuff. But I was actually like, that officer has never been in combat before. Like, if I were writing it, that's what would have happened. If I were writing Kreese, like as somebody who actually did go to Vietnam, the officer that arranges the elite unit to attack behind the scenes would have no actual combat experience.
Or have Kreese be in Vietnam and be like a supply clerk for the special forces unit. A cook, and that's just what he's seeing the whole time. And then they get like overrun, or their base gets overrun and he gets captured or whatever. But like having Kreese actually have like bona fides, I think was a mistake in their writing.
I agree. I mean, he should be a legitimately
intimidating guy,
an intimidating martial artist.
Yeah.
You know, because he knows what he's doing. He's able to teach the kids, and his style works for the most part. It's not as good as Miyagi-Do, because Mr. Miyagi actually trained in Okinawa and all that stuff. And this guy is the military connection is also historically accurate, though, because a lot of karate was brought to the United States by returning World War II vets.
Yeah, because at the beginning of World War II is a little interesting aside for you guys here. Our hand-to-hand combat program didn't exist at the beginning of World War II. And Jack Dempsey, who was a famous boxer, has written 2 books on martial arts that you should definitely read. Explosive Punching and How to Fight Tough. How to Fight Tough was actually the Army's field manual for hand-to-hand combat. And it was just like a truncated version of boxing. And then at the end of the war, when they were in Asia, they brought back the Asian martial arts because that was the first time that most of those GIs had been exposed to it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and in fact, one of the founders of another style of karate I've been taking since I left New York City was one of those GIs. And also Ron Bertram's master's master was first generation GI who had been stationed in Okinawa. So you can kind of see how the cultural exchange as a result of how that war ended up happened. It's honestly kind of a beautiful expression of karma. And to see these different societies influence each other in really interesting ways, particularly when you consider that, Japanese martial arts in Okinawa were in turn inspired by, directly inspired by Kung Fu / Wushu in China.
And then the karate that was popularized on mainland Japan was watered down from what it was on Okinawa. Mm-hmm. They took out like the grappling and a bunch of other different things from it.
They definitely did. What's also interesting is that there's always been an element of showmanship and chicanery in martial arts.
Oh, in combat sports too, for sure.
I mean, a really good example. There's a great video series put up by one of the Chapo guys. I think it's Felix, and it's him going into the history of jiu-jitsu. And like from the foundation of jiu-jitsu as a martial arts style, like going to South America and the creation of the Gracie style jiu-jitsu, and then up to like the UFC. What's really interesting is that I watched a video of a guy that Ron Bertram used to talk about a lot called Bill Superfoot Wallace. And
that is actually
yeah, he's great. My wife watched a video of him talking, and she's like, I would be so annoyed dealing with this man because he seems like an old man who just wants to mess with you.
Yeah. Well,
but I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I interrupted your story.
Yeah, but what he was talking about was he was actually brought in because he was one of the bigger full contact martial arts celebrities in the world. He was brought in to judge at the original UFC, and in the first UFC, that had been curated to give the impression that Gracie style jiu-jitsu was unbeatable because it was organized by the Gracies and they picked the fighters that were going to come in. And Bill Wallace is watching this whole thing and thinking like, okay, they are clearly engineering this entire thing. And what he pointed out was the sumo wrestler.
Yeah.
The sumo wrestler comes in because they brought him in. They were bringing in a bunch of different styles, and the sumo wrestler gets kicked in the face. I think he might lose a tooth or be bleeding a little bit, and they immediately disqualify him. And they hadn't disqualified anyone else. And Bill Wallace was like, the reason they disqualified that sumo wrestler was the Gracie guy. I forget what his name was, but Roy Gracie could not have beaten that sumo wrestler. Because he had absolutely nothing to combat that guy's size and girth. He's not going to lock him up or anything.
That's kind of a problem with MMA up until the modern day, because while there's a lot of chicanery in boxing, so don't get me wrong when I say this, but like UFC is one organization, and it's a company that books fighters. And I'm not saying the fights are fixed, but they book fighters in fights that they know they're going to win, who are more marketable than other fighters. Ronda Rousey, great athlete, is a prime example of that, though. You have this woman who's famous for putting arm bars on people, and she's booked against fighters that are really susceptible to arm bars for like years. And it's very marketable for the company, and it's kind of an unfortunate thing that I don't like about mixed martial arts now. And the
There's a
Gracies were
lot to
famously
not like about mixed martial arts.
the-
But yeah, the documentary is called Fighting in the Age of Loneliness. It's actually really good. So I highly recommend when people are done with this, go check it out. It is on YouTube. My father fought him. Your father fought Bill Superfoot Wallace or Roy Gracie. Be in the hive if you're still there. Either way, that's super cool.
Yeah. It's the cool thing about like boxing and like the athletic combat sports is that you get these older guys who might not be able to go anymore, but they've learned so much over the time that they've been fighting that they can improve the way that the training goes. Like if you look at Jack Dempsey, he was like the first guy to really like scientifically approach boxing in the West. And then if you look at the guys now, like 100 years after he was really fighting, it's so different and it's so much better. And that's kind of what I love about like the newer combat sport based martial arts over like the traditional ones, is that we kind of advance a little quicker than you guys do.
Well, I would say that that's definitely the case. However, what I'll also say is that I think that there's something that can't be. There's a reason I did a dojo and I didn't go and do, mixed martial arts in New York.
A gym.
Yeah. Like I went to, for instance, when I looked into a bunch of different places when I was like, I'm going to train for my black belt now. It's been long enough. It was 2015 was when I started. And I was like, I'm going to find a dojo. And so like, I had a bunch that I looked at. I looked at a Taekwondo place in Harlem. I looked at a kung fu place that was really close to my workplace. I looked at the Kyokushin karate. I looked at a Taekwondo place that was just one floor below, and I looked at Tiger Schulman's MMA. And I remember the Tiger Schulman thing. Like I went in super ritzy, very much a gym, like kind of jazzercise kind of classes, but legit fighting. I would have gotten pretty good at that, but like. The black belts are sitting there in T-shirts. They all basically have a uniform, and they're trying to get you to sign a gym contract. Yeah, and so like, if I'm going to train somewhere, if I'm going to sacrifice, 4 years of my life to train somewhere, I want in the back of my mind that I might learn to throw a fireball.
If anyone who knows George Dillman is listening, I will pay to fight George Dillman, and he gets to throw his fireballs at me, and I get to punch him between fireballs, and we'll see who wins.
Now, what's really interesting though. There's a technique. Like I actually said this on my Facebook a couple of years ago. One of the teachers one of the senseis in my class, he actually proved to me that like freaking ki was real, and it's not what you're thinking, but like I'm sitting there and I was working with him, and he had this technique that I talked to another Kyokushin guy in my Buddhist organization, and he's like, oh yeah, I've never seen that outside of Japan. But what this guy was able to do, he called it like letting go, and it was a way where he was able to relax his whole body, and it almost seemed like he gained like weight, and like it was basically the thing that I could closely identify it with was like the freaking like iron shirt kung fu, where like his body like literally seemed to be more difficult to damage and move. And it wasn't like certain stances will get you into a position where it's very hard to move you.
Yeah.
But I'd never seen anything like this. And I remember I came back and I was like, oh my, ki actually is real. It's a real thing. And then of course they send me the videos of that, old guy pretending to throw the fireball.
Yeah. So like, what you're talking about is kind of like spiritual and moral strength. And what he's talking about is, up, down, down, left, right, A from Street Fighter.
Spiritual and moral strength. I think also probably there's some physiological explanations behind it.
Well, yeah, like in boxing, we learn how to like kind of tense up. That's why you always see in the movies the guys hitting you as you're doing sit-ups, and that will surprise the crap out of you the first time they do it.
Because if you tense and exhale just before you get hit, you can absorb that force much more easily.
A lot better, yeah. Unless the guy outweighs you by like 50 pounds. But the cool thing about combat sports that this show kind of actually did really well is that there's a place for everybody. Like if you're trying to play football, you need to be like a bigger dude to play football usually.
Mhm.
If you play soccer, you need to have the kind of the soccer body to be really good at it. But in boxing especially, I'm sure karate as well, and in this show they definitely show it. There's a place for like the super heavyweight, and there's a place for the dude who weighs like 135. Like literally everyone can participate in it,
Yeah.
as long
I
as you
love
meet.
it. I love, by the way, in Cobra Kai, the tense rivalry between the two tiny nerds.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Or Hawk and his friend, and
Yeah.
yeah, Dimitri.
Oh, my heart goes out to Hawk. Dimitri still annoys the crap out of
Oh,
me.
Dimitri, I would bully, and I'm a nice guy. Like I'm into the things that Dimitri is into, and I would bully him. Like Hawk did nothing wrong. Shouldn't have broke his arm, maybe. Like that's like a little too far. But like, Hawk is definitely.
I think he's maybe the second best character on the show.
I think he is. He's definitely up there because Hawk, if you haven't seen the show, Hawk comes into the show with a cleft lip. He's picked on. He's a nerdy guy. He has like one friend, and it's Dimitri. And Johnny teaches him to redefine the narrative, to take attention off of his cleft lip. And he comes back and he's got a mohawk that he's dyed blue, like neon blue. And I'm like, it took me a second to recognize him. And he's like, "Oh, you're the kid with the lip. Yeah, way to redefine the narrative." And he winds up getting a hawk tattooed on his back that he makes the wings fly with his delts, his little delts.
That guy is as skinny as he is. He really shouldn't be a badass.
No,
like, I will say though, this is one of the things you don't actually have to be big to do to have a lot of power in martial arts. One of the senseis in my dojo in New York was like this tiny Filipino guy, and I had been fighting one of the other black belts and had been pretty effective. This was early in my training where I would basically, because I was so big, I would just get very close to people and start throwing elbows and knees because what are they going to do at that point? And it worked really well. And that's actually how I scored my first knockout. I tried that on Sensei Augusto, and like he just, oh my God, he just obliterated my legs. Like, and I was just like, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to move after this. So like you can do a lot of damage, but like Augusto's not like a small skinny person like Hawk.
Well, you can check out if you guys want to see a really great and brutal example of what Brenton's talking about right now, YouTube Tommy Hitman Hearns. Tommy Hitman Hearns was about 6'2", so he was about my height, weighed 147 pounds at his lightest, and he blinded 2 people. He's actually in the greatest action fight in history when he was at 167 against Marvelous Marvin Hagler. It's called The War. It goes 3 rounds, and between rounds 2, I won't spoil how it ends, but between rounds 2 and 3, Hagler has a cut above his eye that's bleeding down into his eyes, and the ref comes over to ask him if he should stop the fight. He's like, "Hey, champ, I don't know if you can see. I'm going to stop the fight." And you can see him jump back when Hagler looks up at him, and he says, "I ain't fucking missing him, am I?" That's how that fight was going. Check out that fight, and you'll see what leverage will do. Hagler, fun story, also didn't wear sneakers when he ran because he called them sissy shoes. He wore boots.
Well, that kind of sort of makes sense in the sense that
in a very Marvin Hagler way.
Well, okay, this is what I learned on the Appalachian Trail. 1 pound on your foot is like 5 pounds on your back.
Yeah.
So the lighter you can make your shoes, the easier time you're going to have running. So if you run in boots, you probably will like Goku training with like weighted clothing. But here's the other thing: boots do not absorb the shock. So if you're the kind of guy like me who is too big to run, and I've run a marathon, I ran the Chicago Marathon in 2010, you will get shin splints horribly. There's a reason why most marathon runners are either like super tall and skinny or very, very small people. And it's because certain body types, mine, I'm a tank. I'm not a Ferrari.
Yeah. My best 2 mile time was like 14:40. So, but I'm in your same boat. But yeah, Hagler Hearns, look that up and you'll see what leverage will do. Or look up Tommy Hearns versus Roberto Duran, because he brutally knocks out Roberto Duran in 2 rounds. And If you're not familiar with boxing, that just was not done. That wasn't the thing that happened a lot.
I like Hawk. By the way, Bruce Lee wasn't very big. Yeah, he was not a big guy, but yeah, he could generate some serious power when he needed to.
He could, great martial artist. If you put him up against like a modern heavyweight boxer, I think like Mike Tyson would like eat him alive.
It depends what part of his career Mike Tyson is in.
Yeah, now maybe not, but like Mike Tyson, like 1984,
Yeah. Well, there was that whole thing.
That's why we have weight classes.
Muhammad Ali versus Bruce Lee. It might be that might
Muhammad Ali would wipe the floor with him in any scenario. It's not because Bruce Lee is a bad fighter. It's not even because Bruce Lee is not a better fighter than Muhammad Ali. It's because Muhammad Ali is like 6'6" and 250 pounds and fast and powerful. and like Bruce Lee would like look at that fight and go like, no, like I'm not doing it, because it wouldn't prove anything. It wouldn't prove that like boxing is better than kung fu. It would prove that like a dude who has like significantly more athletic advantages over the other dude is probably going to win a fight.
Yeah. So I think there is a lot to do with that, though. I also, whenever I think about pairing a boxer up against a martial artist, I always think like, okay, whose rules are you doing this by?
Yeah.
Because again, like I think, for instance, what was the guy that fought recently, the Irish guy, MMA fighter, McGregor, Ewan McGregor versus
Conor McGregor, not Ewan. Not Obi-Wan. Well, hello there.
Ouch. Yeah, but it was Conor McGregor, and I finally got around to watching that fight actually, and the thing that I was most annoyed with Conor about was he just did not do a good job of guarding himself like at all.
Well, the other thing, I don't know if you noticed this, but after round 3, he was icing himself, and that is a huge problem with guys who come from like the traditional martial arts side of the house, is they don't develop stamina. Because like one of the things that you do in boxing is something called road work, and it's usually like a minimum of a 5-mile run, 3 miles forward, 1 mile on each side step, and 1 mile backwards to get you ready for a fight. And you're doing that almost every day before a fight. So that's why
endurance is so important. It is more important than technique in a lot of ways. It's sort of like how you said that amateurs talk about tactics, but
professionals talk about logistics.
Professionals, amateurs talk about your attacks. Professionals talk about your freaking cardio.
Because I mean, even doing 1 3-minute round is an exhausting experience if you haven't done it before. I get.
But I mean, my point being is that, if you put a boxer and a martial artist together and you have them fight under boxing rules, the boxer's going to win.
Yeah.
If you get a boxer and a martial artist together and you have them fight under martial arts rules, depends on the style, really, to tell you the truth.
I was like what Mike Tyson said about that. He's like, if you fight me in a street fight, I'm going to throw a microwave at you out a window.
Don't make me laugh while I'm vaping.
Oh, you made me laugh while I was puffing, so we're even.
So I forget exactly where we were.
We were talking about like we might have to do a part 2 on this because we're still in like season 1.
Yeah, we really are. Well, we jumped around from season 1 and season 3. So there is something that I wanted to say about Hawk. And this is like a writing thing that I am very cognizant of. And part of I know why they didn't do it, because they don't have a lot of time to work with. But when you are writing, ideally, characters going through major changes, it's not enough to foreshadow the change, and it's not really enough to, like, so many good stories that we say are good rely on people being tactically stupid and just picking up the idiot ball, and then at other times just making decisions, unmotivated decisions for no reason. And I really got to say, Hawk, spoiler, Hawk season 3, when he switches back to the good guys, and you knew that was coming, he does it for no reason. It's completely unmotivated. It makes no damn sense at all.
Yeah, I think they're trying to show, and I think I agree with you, but I think what they were trying to show is that like he's realized that he's become what he hated, especially as they integrated his old bullies into the Cobra Kai gym. and that he sees that during the brawl in Danny's house where they're destroying like hundreds of thousands of dollars of decorations.
Wilt Chamberlain was a student of Bruce Lee. Can you imagine fighting against that? I think you mean Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yeah, different guy.
Yeah, different. But yeah, he's huge. And if you watch Bruce Lee's, it was a Game of Death.
Yeah, his last movie. Yeah,
his last movie, Game of Death. The fight between Bruce Lee and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is amazing. And
you see the size of his foot on Bruce Lee's chest at one point. Like I would not be able to take that guy. Like I can tell you that right now. I saw Vladimir Klitschko training one time in Hollywood, Florida, and Vladimir Klitschko was the heavyweight champion of the world basically from 2005 to like 2015. Like, dude is a monster. He's like 6'8". Like 255 is his fight weight, PhD in sports science, speaks like 5 languages. Married the lady from the little girl who was in Remember the Titans when she grew up. He married her. So they're a very disproportionate couple. Anyway, I saw him hitting a heavy bag in Hollywood, Florida. He knocked a 250-pound heavy bag off a steel ceiling mount.
Oh my.
and I saw him fight in Madison Square Garden that same year, and he fought a guy named Samuel Peter. And I was in row 25, and they don't mic the rings for those fights for the crowd, and you could hear the smack of him landing rights. And I realized then, I was like, I would last 3 minutes with him because that's how long it would take them to drag me screaming back into the ring for this monster to just murder me.
It's
like what you can do with like a modern super athlete is terrifying.
It definitely is. When I was watching, so like the full contact fights, the first time I saw it, the knockdown fights in Kyokushin, like at Dageki, when I was watching them, like the most amazing thing to me, and there are, I have recordings of those fights with my own color commentary on this channel. You guys can find them, like the Dageki best fight, Dageki first fight.
Do you do Howard Cosell?
No.
A fine night for sport.
I should have. You should have been there.
Yeah. Well, if you do another one, let me know. We'll do like Howard Cosell and Muhammad Ali. I'm smarter than you all do it too.
But it amazed me not just that these fights happened, but that they were able to do more than one in a row. Like even with my first fight, and mine, I did 2 fights semi-knockdown that time, so we were doing it with pads, and that the first fight I lost because my opponent kept blocking my fist with his face. In Kyokushin, you're not allowed to punch in the face because we train for bare knuckle. So if they did allow face punches, like by the time you got to knockdown, like you don't have a face after a few fights. But like so my old martial arts training was still in my body at the time. So I lose that first fight and I started to walk off, and then they're like, you can't go anywhere. You got to fight for 3rd place. And I'm like, now? I'm so tired. And they're like, not now, 30 seconds. So I did breathing exercises. You there, Bobby? I'm hearing
I'm sorry. There was a little background noise. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no biggie. Anyway, I'm sitting there. I'm more tired than I've ever been in my life. I do some breathing exercises to kind of get my heart rate going in, and I go back into the ring against this other guy, and we're fighting in like the super heavyweight category. This guy's smaller than me, and he lost the fight in about 45 seconds, which felt like 10 minutes to me. And he lost the fight with me basically taking every low kick that he had to throw like I was freaking Vegeta, and then knocking him out with the leg that had been kicked so many times with a knee to the solar plexus. The point of that is, though, even after only 45 seconds of getting kicked repeatedly in the same leg, and being big enough and able to absorb that and still win the fight with that leg turned black for like a month and a half.
Oh, dude, there were times after Golden Gloves tournaments, like we'd have like between like 5 and 7 days, sometimes between like preliminaries and like semifinals. But like there'd be times after like a tournament where like I couldn't close my fists anymore because like my knuckles would just be bruised, or like I peed blood a few times after getting hit. Actually, the worst one I ever had was this dude. He hit me at a low blow. All the way right in the cash and prizes, and the ref called it as a good hit. And you're supposed to get 5 minutes to recover from that. And I'm just singing soprano on the canvas, and the ref starts counting. I'm like, I'm not getting up, man. Not happening. Nope. And this dude, this is a messed up story, but this dude would see me around town for like months after this, and he would give me guff about like, hey, remember when I knocked you out with that body shot? I'd be like, yeah, I remember, buddy. I remember.
Yeah, that was not a body shot.
Yeah, no, it's not a body shot, but I remember. Yeah, he hit on my girlfriend like twice at the time, and then I was like, I got him. You're
finish your story. And then
anyway, like I get him in a rematch, and I'm already gonna kill him in the locker room.
I gotta put this down. I realize the story is longer. So
I'm sorry, it's a few seconds longer. I'm gonna murder this dude. So I'm about to walk out, and somebody taps me on the shoulder and goes like, "Is that your dad?" in the crowd, and I go like, "Yeah, that's my dad." And he goes like, "He just bet $200 on the other guy." And I was just like shaking with rage.
Wow.
So I get in, and the ref was too far away, and I put my arm under the dude's arms, pushed his arms up, and just started left hooking into his ribs. I wound up breaking 3 of the guy's ribs, sent him a get well soon card in the hospital, and never saw him again.
And your dad lost his $200.
He did, yeah. It's a long story.
He actually bet against you.
He did, yeah. Like a lot of money for an amateur fight too. Like, damn, Dad.
I thought your dad was some hippy dippy dude.
He is. He thought I would lose though.
Under no circumstances, if my son grows up to be a fighter, and I am going to probably put him into martial arts very quickly, under no circumstances am I ever betting against him, no matter how sure I am he's going to lose. All right, so we get over here.
Yeah.
They show him hesitating over breaking Dimitri's arm means Hawk, and it's when the other guy set up to do it again that he changes. So they were probably trying to show his conscience getting to him. I agree. They were trying to show that, but I didn't see. I from what you said, Bobby, to this, I agree that was what they were foreshadowing. I just don't think it was sufficiently. Yeah, I don't think they earned that moment.
Yeah. I did like that they actually showed somebody actually breaking somebody's arm with an armbar.
Yep.
Because that's what happens when you put somebody in an armbar. They don't like bite your shin and then you let go. You break the dude's arm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can get somebody to give up. I've won fights with arm bars before. I did that. I did 2 years of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in college, and I won on like a textbook one where what had happened was I was grappling with the guy, and I'd gotten over on top of him, and I noticed that he was just instinctively resisting any movement that I put in. So for no reason whatsoever, I tried to push his arm to his chest, which then he instinctively pushed against it, to which then I grabbed it and pulled him back into a perfect armbar.
Yeah, I did some jiu-jitsu to augment my boxing, and I was very humbled when I was tied into pretzels by these actual Brazilian dudes who knew what they were doing.
Oh yeah, guillotine choke. Jiu-jitsu as a style was created specifically by a tiny man to fight people much bigger than he was.
Yeah.
And it was also created to fight freaking samurai. This was something that I did want to get back to, though, with regard to the bow and to martial arts weapons in general. And, you know, honestly, by the way, very obvious. I really love the girl that plays Tori. She reminds me of a friend of mine, actually, who's not psycho. But like Tori, when she grabs those nunchucks, first off, you can tell the actress is uncomfortable with them. She does not know how to use nunchucks. But the second, it's like nunchucks against a bow wins. Like nunchucks are a great weapon to whip out on the street and scare the crap out of people with. In fact, and one day I may dramatize this, but when my father was attending medical school in Philadelphia, he in like the 70s, he had to live in a very bad neighborhood, and a lot of the doctors carried guns to protect themselves from the gangs in the area. And one of the guys had like 5 or 6 guys show up to jump him on the way back from the ER one night, and I guess mug him or whatever. And he whipped out nunchucks and they ran.
I'd run too, man. Like, that's not, like he might not know how to use them, but I'm not taking a chance finding out.
But yeah, so like what I wanted to say is, as far as the martial arts weapons go, what's really incredible about them is if you really take the time to learn the weapons, particularly weapons like the bow and the hanbo, like I was in a martial arts class and just gripping just a hanbo, like two hands on a stick. And the master literally took his and whipped it and was able to knock the entire thing out of my hands at like the tightest grip I could have possibly had, one blow. And it was because of like the exact way that he got it moving, exactly where he hit it, and the twist on the thing. So you can do a lot with just a stick, is my point.
Yeah, well, I mean, like you can also do a lot with just your fists, which this show kind of shows you too.
Yeah.
Which what I really liked is that it kind of shows you that through like martial arts, boxing, whatever, like you really do develop yourself, because those kids, they do a really great job in season 1 of like the Cobra Kai kids, like completely kind of changing their lives and character through the martial arts. And like they're all like objectively badass at the end of season 1, which is not like a realistic expectation you should have, because what I did want to ask you was about like karate tournaments, but like they go from 0 to competing in like competitive karate tournaments in what's implied to be like the space of like a school year, and like that's not real, man. like I didn't start like competing in silver gloves until I was almost like 13 or 14. That was like 2 years of boxing. And I wasn't good until I was almost 20.
My first tournament was that was junior year of high school. So I'd been doing martial arts about I'd been doing martial arts intensively for 2 years. But before I did my first martial arts tournament, and our school swept it. But also you got to keep in mind, we were training 5 days a week, because it was a class in school. So we were spending 1 hour a day doing pretty intense, I wouldn't call it full contact now. At the time I called it full contact, but high contact martial arts. And we were going up against people that were doing it maybe twice a week. So that could happen. What's weird is black belt in the space of a year. That is unheard of. And if anybody earns their black belt within a year, no, they didn't.
No, because like the tournament works in a weird way too, because it's like it's a point tournament, but it's also kind of full contact.
Yes.
And like the rules don't make much sense.
They don't make any sense. No. So yeah, because there's essentially two ways that sparring is handled in martial arts. There's the point system, where it's basically like a game of tag. It's closer to fencing with your hands and fists. And then there's full contact, where there are points. Like you'll see, but if a person gets 1 point, they win. And it's usually like a point is given for like solid contact that visibly rocks the other person. So like if you bust somebody in the face and they're visibly dazed, that's a point.
So amateur boxing, I think they've gone back over to 10-9 since I stopped, but they used to work it on a similar thing to that, where a good power shot counted as a point, because the 10-9 system was massively corrupt for a long time in amateur boxing, and they had to switch over to objective points like that. And I have like a good chunk of my stoppages were actually a rule where if you got 10 points ahead, they would just stop the fight and call it outclassed.
By the way, what we have here is join us, get your black belt in 3 months.
Of Cobra. You know what? That would probably be good advertising in SoCal.
Be great advertising in SoCal. It would not produce good fighters.
No.
And then we have,
good. Sith for life, man.
So
I look better in black. I'm imagining the Sith actually let me smoke.
You should take the Sith one. You should take that personality test to see how psychotic you are.
I have.
Did you take the Dark Triad personality test?
Yeah,
online?
I'm not psychotic.
No.
I have way too much remorse.
I took that. I scored very high in compassion, and I was 16.8% lighter than other individuals. Very low in sociopathy, very low in Machiavellianism, almost no Machiavellianism, very high in narcissism. And I can live with that.
Isn't that something that a Machiavellian person, though, would purposely get on the test to share with people?
It is.
Yeah, see what I did there?
I'm watching you.
Yeah,
Well, it was that Destiny took some test like that, and like before he took it, he just like took the answer he thought would ace it, and then got,
He
like
also took the LSAT, and that was hilarious.
That was hilarious. Oh God, Destiny. If you ever watch this, Destiny, I don't care about the LSAT. That was really cringy, but I really want to talk to you about your moral system because it's horrible. You need to stop. But oh God.
Join the Sith. We have cigars. Yeah, why do you think all their teeth are yellow, bro? They're all smoking Cubans all day. Space Cubans.
Space Cubans. Oh man. Well, so I guess we've been at this for a little over an hour and a half, so we may want to do a part 2 to really get into the meat and guts of this. But here's on our way out, like. Yeah. How do you feel about the series? Because it does seem to be that there is a clash coming between Kreese's cult and Miyagi-Do.
I think it's cool. I think it's a cool story of like the Americanization of karate, the good and the bad of it. And it's a story of generations. It's like kind of my generation because this is aimed more at millennials. I think whoever's writing this is more familiar with millennials than they are with Zoomers. I think it's a really cool callback to something I grew up with. It's a great way to just kill some time if you're looking for some fun entertainment. I really like this show a lot.
How did you feel? Because of course the right is freaking out and saying that the left is freaking out about Cobra Kai.
Is anyone actually freaking out about Cobra Kai?
No one's freaking out about Cobra Kai. I mean, I'm sure there's someone because there's someone saying anything and everything at any point in time. But the left is not angry about Cobra Kai. What is your opinion of the sort of satire of kind of, I guess, sort of modern identity politics like that the show does?
I think it was actually brilliant. I thought it was really good. I think that Johnny's reaction to like modern kids is really funny because he's trying to live this like macho ideal. And like he keeps butting heads with the real world, and then like he's trying to teach these kids to be like action heroes, and they're coming up to him and like, I have allergies, I have asthma, I have emotions, and like his response to that isn't to try to like work around it. His like response is just yell, "Stop! Silence! Shut up!" I think that is the most realistic thing, and it's something that like. Expelling pain is weakness leaving the body. Learning how to fight and learning martial arts really will help actualize you, and it really will help you get over a lot of your hang-ups. It'll give you confidence. The Fight Club is a little cringe sometimes, but that scene where he's walking through the office and he's like, yes, these are bruises from fighting, yes, I'm okay with that, I am enlightened. It's like, it's a real thing. Like, you learn you're not made of glass. And I think that was kind of like a cool thing because our generation and the generation coming up behind us really is sheltered from a lot of that stuff. I don't think it was like it wasn't like racist or sexist at any point to anybody. I think they went out of their way to include women learning how to fight. I didn't see
and people with multicolored hair and disabled people.
I didn't see anything that was like homophobic from any of like the heroes or that was like promoted well. If it's in there and I didn't notice it, I mean, feel free to point it out to me.
I don't think it's in there. So I think you're right on that. I think that it does rib on like SJW kind of stuff. That it was pointed out in the chat. It was more liberals than leftists, but people on the right think leftists are liberal. Like they don't really make some stuff here, but here I love this. I wanted to say, I love when Hawk is fighting and smart in the cafeteria. She triggered me when she invaded space.
That's something that would actually happen now too.
Yeah,
like it's not like, well, I mean, I haven't been in high school in over a decade, but
no, I mean, the thing is that you can, by using specific language, you can send. I mean, essentially, it's virtue signaling.
Yeah.
If you, it's the same way of like, if I start talking about dialectical materialism, you might peg me for a tanky. Or if I say deformed workers state, oh, that's a trot. So like what winds up happening is
people don't know what that means.
So when he says she triggered me by invading my safe space, yes, both Republicans and Democrats, like most people know those two terms, but saying it like that is a way to play to an authority figure's biases because it's signaling your adoption of these kind of kinder, gentler societal values.
He's also the bad guy at that point, so it's kind of worth noting.
Oh yeah, definitely. But like, also, by the way, the fights really get completely out of hand, and I don't mean that in like the choreography does, but like the end of season 2, spoiler, like where freaking Tori is like, "I'm coming for you, bitch," over the microphone.
Yeah, that would not happen.
That would never happen, and she would be stopped before she could get there.
Didn't she have like spiked brass knuckles in that fight?
She did.
Like, those are like illegal in every state in the union. Like, you can't buy those for love or money, except maybe off like the darker corners of the internet.
She's got the because Tori is insane.
Yeah. She went to she went on Silk Road and bought like spiked brass knuckles from Fallout. Everyone else is trying to have everyone else is trying to have a karate fight. She's playing Fallout 3. You know?
Yeah, like, and then like the fact that what's her face, Mr. Miyagi, or Danny's daughter, I can't think of her name, the fact that she has like PTSD over that fight. I mean, having someone whip out a weapon during a fight is pretty disturbing, but I don't know if I 100% bought like the total fear response. I mean, did that feel real to you?
You know, kind of, because like she's like lived such a sheltered life. Like she's never lived in a rough area. She lives in a mansion. Her dad owns a dealership, bro. Her dad owns like 3 dealerships, bro. But like, you know, like she did karate for fun, and she associates karate with like, you know, her dad. And all of a sudden, this Terminator is like calling her out over like the school announce system, and she's got spiked brass knuckles like Freddy Krueger coming out of her
freaking raider in the wasteland.
Yeah, that would mess me up too a little bit if I was her. Like, I could see like her being like, you know, a little once burned twice, like, oh my god, that crazy bitch has spiked brass knuckles. I thought it was nuts that the one guy kicks Miguel over the
railing.
Railing, and like there would be jail time for that. Like
there would, and he does get jail time, but
he gets like not 5 minutes of juvie.
Yeah. The railing thing, when I saw that, I knew that was going to happen the second I saw that railing.
Yeah.
And I knew that they were going to do he's in a coma, and then he's crippled, and then he comes through it, because that is a trope in martial arts. Like in martial arts films, there's a film about Bruce Lee's life, and this never happened to Bruce Lee, by the way, that like a similar back-breaking moment happened to him, and he got better, you know.
Oh, I didn't make that connection. Yeah, you're right.
So that is a trope, and I saw that coming. I really want to talk very quickly, by the way, about what's his name, the 90s kid, the one who kicked him over the
Robbie.
Robbie.
He looks like John Connor, like Dollar Store John Connor. Yeah, it's John Connor with an ER.
Yeah. And by the way, for the record, I'm against them cutting his hair. He should have kept his long hair. I mean, they took him from one form of 90s to another form of 90s. I don't know why.
I think that actor wanted to get a date in the next decade.
Yeah, well, I think, you know what, long hair, chicks dig long hair.
Yeah, chicks dig long hair. Chicks don't dig the haircuts from growing pains.
Fair enough. Good point. But like, so do you buy that he would join? Spoiler. Do you buy that he would join Kreese?
Yeah, actually, I do.
Really? Okay, why?
Like, you have a good relationship with your dad. Like, that dude doesn't, and I don't either. Well, I do and I don't. I've made peace with my dad. He hasn't. Like you got to think about like who Johnny is to us versus who Johnny is to him. To us, Johnny's the fun martial arts guy who like still lives in like the mid 70s. You know, he's delightfully quirky, right?
Yeah.
But to Robbie, he's the son of a gun who left him alone on Christmas, never got him anything for his birthday for like 17 years, doesn't want anything to do with him, and then comes back into his life and he tries to ruin the one good thing he has, which is his relationship with the LaRussos. Yeah. And then Kreese shows him a way that he can actually take control over his life, not through like working for, Danny LaRusso, and not through like vying for his dad's affection, which he tries over and over again, only to be like slapped down.
Yep.
But like
when he doesn't go to see him
in prison.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I absolutely buy that. Like a 17-year-old kid hopped up on hormones and really pissed off at his dad would enlist with his dad's greatest enemy to screw his dad over. I don't think he would like try to murder his father.
No.
I think he just wants to hurt him.
And that's the thing. I believe him going along with Kreese for his own reasons, but I don't believe him drinking Kreese's Kool-Aid, because he seems like he's been burned by male authority figures so many times.
Yeah.
I feel like he would be a little more guarded, and that indoctrination happened way too quickly.
I mean, it did happen in like the last 20 minutes of an episode. So yeah, you're right on that one. I think it is definitely going to be like a Kylo Ren situation where they're going to like redeem him at the last minute in season 4.
Oh yeah, I have a feeling. I don't know if Tori is going to wind up being irredeemable or not. They made.
Did you get a weird like attraction vibe between her and Kreese?
Oh, I hope not, because that
would be like super creepy. But like I know what they were like going for with Kreese, but like at the same time, it's a weird dynamic that they have.
If they go in that direction, I will honestly.
I don't think they do.
I'll be so skeeved out, but I will actually applaud them for that.
Yeah,
a guy like Kreese totally would do that shit, and a girl as young and
sane,
yeah, as Tori would probably go for that.
Yeah,
I remember I was in this rock and roll and sketch comedy dinner theater, and the guy who ran it, who had like long white hair like down to the middle of his back, he would date very, very young women, and it was that level of like Kreese and her creepy. Maybe not quite that, because the young women were like in their early 20s, and he was in his late 40s, early 50s, but like I'm pretty sure Tori's 17.
Yeah, I just got a weird vibe.
Maybe that's how they finally get rid of Kreese.
Oh yeah. Would you like to have a seat? I'm Chris Hansen from Dateline NBC.
That's it. That's the end of Cobra Kai season 4. He gets stung by Chris Hansen.
And Chris Hansen's in a gi with a black belt.
He's in a gi and he comes in and what was it? Like Kreese has got like fucking wine coolers or something.
Yeah. Oh no, like oh god.
Okay.
Hypnotic.
Yeah. All right, folks. You heard it. You heard it here first. I don't think we're going to top that, so that's what we're going off on. Cobra Kai season 4. We'll end with a creepy romance between Kreese and Tori, and it will become a pedo sting.
Kung Fu Chris Hansen saves the day.
If only. Oh my god. There's one thing I wanted to point out, by the way, before we totally end this, and that is that like Cobra Kai under Kreese it seems like that was what Gavin McGinnis was trying to do with the Proud Boys.
Yeah, it does.
Like he's running his cult. He's Gavin McGinnis and the Proud Boys are pussies, and they for the most part can't fight for shit. And I've watched their videos, and I've watched their little breakfast cereal induction. Yeah,
that's not much of a beat-in.
Like really, but like I think Cobra Kai under Kreese is pretty much I think they're a fascist street gang, basically, just without any ideology other than Kreese.
Well, they carried out a terrorist attack on the car dealership.
That's a very good point. I drank adrenochrome back in. I got to tell you, Kreese would be cute. He would be Trump and Q all the way.
Oh, that'd be a great like throwaway line. They stole the election from us. They're not going to steal our karate from us. We got to do karate at the Capitol, kids.
Yeah, dude. By the way, there's a meme I saw. It's the Ninja Turtles. It's like a comic.
Oh yeah, I saw that too. We shouldn't have let him add turtle power to the song.
Raphael is storming the Capitol. All right, folks, this has been Insurrection with Brenton Lengel, special edition. Hopefully part 1 of 2, I think, on Cobra Kai. I'll also be doing some black belt reacts and writer reacts to Cobra Kai because I really love this series, and I hope you all do too. The ribbing that I gave it mainly came out of love. I think this is one of the better shows that's out there right now. So yeah, Cobra Kai seasons 1 to 3. Check it out. Watch it. Don't take the karate seriously. All right. And Bobby, do you want to plug your pluggables?
Yeah, I'm going to be doing some more content hopefully in the new year. I'm Mustache Mafia on YouTube, Mustache Bob 2 on Twitter, Mustache Mafia on SoundCloud. And that's how you can find me.
Oh, and for those of you who missed the Snow White Zombie Kickstarter for number 3, this coming Monday or Tuesday, I will be launching a backer kit for last-minute add-ons to the series before we go to print. And I am going to add a link to the description of this video to where you guys can go and pre-order the comics. There's a bunch of cool stuff there. I'm also doing t-shirts, pins, stickers. All of that goes to support the work that I'm doing and to support the series. So definitely check it out. And it will also go to help support the creation of my next series, which is a comic graphic novel based upon the movie that I wrote, based upon the life of famous anarchist Buenaventura Durruti, who is the anarchist Che Guevara and who had fought actual fascists in Spain. All right. So peace out.